Assalamu alaikum. This is Muslim Network TV, and I'm your host, Alia Batul. This is GTA Muslims Today, where I'm here joined with Aisha, and I'm going to be asking her some of her thoughts on the upcoming federal election. Aisha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And I just wanted to ask you, what are your sentiments going forward in this next federal election? How are you feeling?
I think this federal election is definitely something that I'm more focused on than previously. There's a lot at play here, specifically with regards to Muslim communities. I think there's a lot that flows in from the south of the border to the Canadian communities, not just in social media, but also in our political stream. So I'm conscious about what all parties are saying, not just about Muslim communities in general, but how they intend to deal with a lot of the legal issues that are questioning or questions at the court. So it's a lot more important, I think, this year than in the past.
This is definitely one of the most important elections we've had in a while. And I wanted to ask you, what are some specific issues that are going to be affecting your vote?
I think I can put those down to three, not in any particular priority list, but one of them, very, very close to my heart, is the constitutional challenges, specifically with the notwithstanding clause. So in Quebec specifically, they have implemented the notwithstanding clause under Bill 21, which restricts um, religious headgear in a lot of public spaces. And that affects not just Muslim communities, but largely those who identify as through their religious headgear. And Pierre Poilievre of the Conservative Party has also stated that they would use the notwithstanding clause in a security sense. I'm not sure if he ever explained what the security sense would be and how far that would go. So the second one definitely is Palestine. The issue of Palestine is an issue that I think not just restricts our freedom in Canada, but it also restricts our freedoms of speech elsewhere around the world. It's an issue that's directly linked to what we see happening in the United States, as well as in some places like the United Kingdom. Thirdly, I think housing has always been an issue, especially for young people. And going forward, a lot of the political parties need to have good platforms that they can put forward to us on how they intend to resolve that issue.
And speaking more in detail about Bill 21, obviously that's something huge, especially for our community. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's going to affect your vote?
I will never be voting for any party that intends to use the notwithstanding clause unfettered. I personally, someone who is striving to become a lawyer in the near future, I think that it's a very dangerous precedent that Quebec has set. And the important thing to note about the notwithstanding clause is that it's not reviewable by the government or by the court. Sorry. So you can't go to court and say that the government has implemented this and we don't want it. That is something that is an ongoing issue at the court with regards to Bill 21, but we don't have an answer to that. So every 5 years, the government can basically invoke that notwithstanding clause and have it continue on forever. So the danger really is that they can use that notwithstanding clause and take away that the fundamental freedoms under the charter, not just in one way under religious freedoms, but it could exceed to equality, the rights of equality, and possibly even mobility and freedom of speech. And I think that's a very dangerous precedent to set nationwide in Canada.
And speaking of freedom of speech, I mean, with everything happening in Palestine, it's a very difficult time for not just our community, but anybody that has, empathy for Palestine. How is Palestine going to affect your vote?
I do see the issue of Palestine very much interlinked with the issue of charter rights. Personally, I think that it goes to those rights which we have here of freedom of association and freedom of speech. And there's a lot of bad faith actors who've targeted people and called them all kinds of names that have negated their point of view, and it's made it so that we can't even have a social constructive argument of sorts on this issue. So I think that the danger that this poses is also that if the political parties want to drive this issue as a wedge between parties or between Canadian citizens, it would make it more difficult for people all across the board to come together and to really talk about why they feel so strongly one way or another, rather than, saying that I'm pro this or I'm anti that. I think that that's the wrong thing to do. So going forward, I think I would be looking at how the political parties are engaging, not just in one community, but in all communities, and how they intend to bring those communities together. Yeah.
And this is my final question. I know you're young, but we did a study and it showed that 70% of youth in Canada feel like they'll never be able to afford their own home. What are your thoughts on that and just in general the housing crisis that we are in right now?
I think that I do find myself relating to that sentiment, but I do have friends, that have been able to achieve that goal of owning a house. I don't think that it's quite impossible, but I think that it is also dependent on so many different circumstances, right? Personally, I think that owning a house is a goal, but I think that there can be many alternatives to that. So, for example, the political parties could really implement not just buying houses, but they could implement things like high rises that people could rent and not rent from landlords that are mass buying these properties, to not monopolize this industry as much going forward. Because what's really missing here is, like you said, for the young people to find that space before they start families, to really get on their feet. So I hope that that is an issue that these parties can agree on, really, because it really shouldn't be such a bipartisan issue.
Well, those were all of my questions. Thank you so much, Aisha, for joining us today. And thank you guys for watching Muslim Network TV. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content to keep getting more updates like this. This is Muslim Network TV, and I'm your host, Elia Batul.